but you can never be too skinny. Yes, you can if you're a curtain. Hey everybody, it's design time. My name is Lou and welcome to my channel where today we are talking about curtains. More specifically, curtain mistakes that I see everywhere all the time. And admittedly, hanging curtains is tough. It's a hard thing to get right. So we are going to go over the 5, I would say, most common mistakes when hanging curtains, but only 4 of them are the actual hanging and 1 is the choosing of the curtains. Now, the first 2 mistakes have to do with the curtain rod. Number 1, most definitely and absolutely, is installing the rod too low. I highly recommend knowing where your rod is going before you purchase those curtains. If you know where that rod is going to go, you're going to know the length of the curtains that you need. Now, the rule of thumb for hanging that rod, most everyone will likely know, and that is to install that rod 2/3 of the way up between the top of your window and your ceiling. And if you're measuring between the molding of the window and the crown molding on the ceiling, just measure from end to end of that. So 2/3 of the way up. So if you measure to the top of your window and you get 84 inches, do not buy 84-inch curtains. Hang that rod where you want it and then measure the rod to the floor. Now, I don't always follow that 2/3 rule. There are times and rooms that I will hang that rod almost all the way to the ceiling. It just creates a really refined look in certain rooms. Anyway, 2/3 of the way up from the top of your window to the ceiling. Number 2 mistake that involves the rod is not installing the rod wide enough, not installing it outside of the limits of the window enough. The reason for this is when you open your curtains completely, you don't want them to be in the space of the actual window. You want them to be on the sides, just lightly hanging in front of just a teensy bit. You want them mostly on the walls. Now, there is also a rule of thumb for this, and it is that your rod should be about 8 to 12 inches wider than your windows, which means you should give it about 4 to 6 inches beyond your window frame on each side. And I think that sounds just about right. The next mistake, number 3, gets into the actual curtain itself. Now, as I mentioned before, measure the rod to the floor before you choose the length of your curtains, because if you choose a length, say 96, and then you follow that rule, you know, the 2/3 one, those might be too short, and that's the mistake. Hanging these curtains too short or too long, but I normally see too short. I would say 90% of the time when it's a mistake. The other 10 is too long. Now, when I searched some of my favorite home stores, like Restoration Hardware, for example, when I looked at their collection of curtains, not one was even a 1/2 inch off of the floor. The lowest that those curtains got was just above the floor, just brushing the floor. Most of the other were slightly kissing the floor or actually puddling on the floor. The bottom of your curtains should never be off the floor. It's just a more luxurious look. It's excess. That's what it looks like. It looks like excess. Excess velvet, excess silk, excess linen. It just looks better. Now, too long is another story. When your curtains are too long and they're basically lying on the floor, you're just mopping the floor with your curtains. That's just inviting dust and pet hair or whatever to just get all mixed up in there. And it doesn't look good. So make sure your curtains almost or most definitely touch the floor. One note on that, if you have pleated curtains or curtains that have a particular fold or you want them to look tidy, just brushing the floor is fine. It keeps them neat, it keeps them in line, and you're still following the rules of curtains. All right, here is the second actual curtain mistake, and that is not purchasing wide enough curtains or not having enough curtains on each side. Panels come in all kinds of sizes. I think 30 is the smallest, maybe even in the 20s, but you can buy one single panel that's 100 inches. And those are normally for sliding glass doors because you want to pull the whole thing over. But I often buy 2 of those for my curtain rod and just use one on each side. Another thing you can do is purchase 2 sets of curtains, 2 sets of the same curtains, and just have a set on each side. When you have more curtains, it just looks better. It's very sad when a little skinny panel just hangs at the side of a window. It's just not enough. It's too meager, too skinny. But you can never be too skinny. Yes, you can if you're a curtain. So just make sure that your curtains have enough fabric to bunch up and look full. It'll really make a difference in how that whole setup looks. All right, I had to add this last mistake because I really only had 4. 2 mistakes that had to do with rods and then 2 that had to do with curtains. This one I thought I'd throw in there because it really does matter, and that is getting the right light filtering curtain. You may purchase a set of drapes and put them up and realize that they are too sheer for what you wanted. Or you may have wanted room darkening curtains. I have those in my basement and we close them when it's movie time because we want it to be as dark as possible. Now, on the other end of that, sheers are great. I actually hang a double rod, put sheers underneath and curtains on top of that. Sheers are a great way to filter light, but just a little, just enough so it makes a difference in how much light comes in the room. Now with a regular curtain, say you purchase a set of linen drapes and you put them in a very sunny window, you're going to see every sewing stitch and crease. You're going to see darker sides where it's been folded and sewn, and you may not like that. So make sure you're purchasing the right light filtering. If you want it dark, make sure they're lined, make sure they're room darkening. If you want to let a lot of light in, sheers are great. And if it's a room where there's medium light, you're good to go anywhere in the middle. For this video, I took examples from homes that were both for sale and homes that were staged to be shown. Needless to say, the ones that were staged, mostly new construction homes. So those are professional interior designers and they hung the curtains exactly right. Anyway, if you make sure that you avoid the 5 mistakes that I just spoke of when hanging your curtains, you're gonna get it right. I think that's it. If anyone has any questions or would like to add a major mistake when hanging curtains, make sure to put it in the comments down below. I'm sure we'd all love to hear it. Other than that, that's it for this video on the 5 most common mistakes people make when hanging their curtains. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. I did. If you did enjoy the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you aren't already subscribed but would like to be, please hit that button down below and you'll see me next time on Design Time. Bye.